So it's still physically possible to stop further warming, but it requires beginning to reduce emissions. And the problem is that fossil fuels are the cheapest energy. They appear to be cheapest because they don't include their cost to society. Just the cost of air pollution on human health, if you would only include that, you would make the competing cleaner energies much more competitive. And instead, we're even subsidizing the fossil fuels. So the solution that's required is make the price of fossil fuels honest by including their cost to society. And you could do that in a very simple way. Just collect the money from the small number of sources, the domestic mines and the ports of entry. So it costs almost nothing to collect it. And if you would give that money to the public, an equal amount to all legal residents of the country, then most people would come out ahead, about 70% with the present distribution of energy use. And we could move rapidly on that 3% per year reduction rate. In fact, the economic studies show that if you had a $10 a ton carbon fee rising $10 a ton each year, by the end of 10 years, the emissions would go down 30%, which is more rapid than 3% per year. But you have to actually do that. You can't do it with some gimmicky thing like cap and trade, which does almost nothing in practice. Globally, it doesn't do anything. The emissions just continue to go up. So this, by the way, is the only viable international solution. We've tried the cap and trade route, the Kyoto Protocol. It doesn't do anything. But if the United States or Europe or China would decide to have a across-the-board rising carbon fee, they can impose that practically globally by means of saying we're going to put border duties on products from countries that don't have an equivalent carbon fee. That's an enormous incentive for those other countries to have their own fee so they can collect the money themselves rather than have us collect money at the border. Economists say that would work, but politicians don't want to do it that way. By the way, there's an organization in the United States and in Canada called Citizens Climate Lobby that's supporting exactly this kind of solution. And, they're trying to use the democratic process. They write letters to the editor, they visit the Congress people, the representatives, and try to argue for a carbon fee and dividend. I think on a per capita basis that Canada has, in the United States there are now 90,000 people in this organization, and they're really beginning to be heard in our government. Are there any people from Citizens Climate Lobby here? Oh, we have at least 4 people, 5, 6, 7 people. So, actually more than that. So there are so if you're interested, this I think is the single most important, most effective thing that a citizen can do is to try to use the democratic process to force our government to do something sensible. As Margaret Mead said, a small group of thoughtful, concerned citizens can really change the world. In fact, that's the only way we ever do it. And in the U.S., the conservatives, the true conservatives, actually like this kind of approach because you're using the market to help you do something sensible. And economists will tell you that making prices honest is the best way, is the most economically efficient way to deal with something.
I'm willing to say that, well, Marx was a communist, and I'm a communist in the way that Marx was. Which was to say that I think capitalism as a whole is simply not just a bad idea, but a dangerous one, especially now with climate change kicking in. And capitalism is responsible for so many of our problems, either by itself or has the main responsibility. And they're all getting worse. It's not as if we've arrived at the bottom of the hole. And this being the case, so we don't have much time not just to create a better society, but to create a survivable society, a society which will continue to be a place for our species if we don't create a system where the government deals with social needs. And there's no greater need than dealing quickly immediately with all that can be done to stop the climate change in its tracks to the extent that's possible, to provide decent, well-paying, safe jobs for everybody who wants one,